Welcome, Katherine, to Birdie Booth at Miami. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are going to be asking you a total of 9 questions and 1 get to know you round. So let me introduce you to the Birdie Booth team. I am Sophia Estrada, 11 years old. My position in leadership is the Junior Ace Advertiser, and I've been playing golf for 1 year. Off to Danny. Hi, Katherine. I am Danielle Hernandez. I'm 10 years old. I've been playing golf for 5 years and the proud divot decorator for Girls Golf Miami. On to Ophelia.
Thank you, Danny. Hello, my name is Ophelia Bunuel. I'm 10 years old. I've been in girls golf since October, and I've been playing golf for 3 years. Back to you, Sophie.
I'm going to start off with the first question. My question is, how did you get into the game of golf?
Well, I was actually 12 years old when I started, and I was playing tennis at the time. And I like tennis, but my dad offered for me to try golf. And I loved all sports, so I decided that I would give it a try. And he taught me the basics, and I just loved it from day one. And I was really fortunate. We had a nice junior program that I got to get involved in at his home club. So there was only one other girl actually that was a junior at the time that I joined. So we were kind of buddies and would encourage each other and try and beat the boys. So that was kind of fun. And I've got really fond memories of how that all started.
Wow, that's amazing. My second question for you is, when did you know golf was your true passion? And what difficulties did you have to overcome as a junior?
Ooh, well, like I said, I loved golf from day one. When it became a passion, I'm not sure. I think when I was about probably 14, I thought that it would be really cool to be a professional golfer. And that was about the time that one of my friends in junior golf told me about the college athletic or college scholarship program in the US. So that kind of got me thinking maybe I could go to college and do it. And so then I started to get a bit more serious about golf, and I started writing down goals of all the scores that I wanted to shoot, or the handicap that I wanted to have by a certain period of time. And I would say I was probably pretty passionate about then, because I got serious about my goals. And in terms of overcoming difficulties, I think the hard part about golf is not getting too hard on yourself. So we're always obviously trying to get better, but sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves. And even happens at my level, at my age. And I would probably say that if you asked all my fellow touring pros the same question, they would say it's something that they're still kind of learning and managing even as they play professionally. But yeah, it's about being your best friend out there. And I'm sure you girls have had a coach maybe in girls golf tell you to be your own best friend and your own cheerleader out there. So it's the same for us. Whether you're practicing or whether you're playing, you have to always be positive and don't get too hard on yourself.
Wow, that's an amazing story. My last question for you is, what are some differences between Australian golf and golf in America?
Ooh, good question. Well, we probably have more public golf courses in Australia, or more like semi-public courses. So golf's probably a little bit cheaper and maybe a bit more accessible. But let's see, what else? The grass is a lot different too. And our seasons are opposite. So right now we're coming into summer in the US. Well, they're going into winter in Australia. So totally different conditions. And everywhere you go, kind of like in the US, has a different style of golf. So down in Florida, where you guys are, there's a lot of Bermuda, and it's typically not a lot of thick rough. You got a lot of bunkers and high humidity. So where I grew up in Australia is pretty similar. But if you go south in Australia, then it gets cooler, unusual, I know, and they can have bent grass and the ground is a lot firmer and it plays almost more links golf. So I would say those are some of the differences, but overall Australians love golf, and we've had a pretty good history of players coming out of there, but most of them love to come over here and compete in the US too.
Wow, that's so cool. Off to you, Danny. Thanks, Sophia. Now I have my 3 questions. On to question number 1. We want to know more about you outside of golf. The world has been going through some hard times. What are some things you have done to keep busy and stay calm?
That's a good question. Yeah, these are very unusual times for everyone. I've been home since about March 14. And I've actually really enjoyed the time at home because we're used to traveling so much. And I've been able to spend time with my husband. He's been working from home. Usually he goes into his office, but he's working from home. So we've been able to spend a good amount of time together. And we've been fortunate in Kansas. They didn't close the golf courses. So we've still been able to play, which has been fun because I like to play social golf and play with all my friends here in Wichita. So that's been good. I've also tried cooking. I've never been a very good cooker or chef, I should say. So that's been fun. Even tried baking some chocolate chip cookies. They turned out pretty good, but yeah, it's been an unusual time. I think obviously with all the uncertainty, you can kind of get sometimes carried away in all the hype, and I think the most important thing is just to be grateful for what we have and kind of take one day at a time and still set goals in this period of time too. And there's certainly things that we can come out of this situation by being a better person and staying positive.
Thank you so much. On to question number 2. We know LPGA players travel to some amazing places. Of all the different cities you have visited, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, good question. Well, I do like going over to France. We have the Evian Championship just outside of Geneva, and it sits high up on the kind of the mountainside and overlooks Lake Geneva, and it's really pretty. So that's kind of fun to take the ferry across to Lausanne, Switzerland as well, and kind of get your mind off golf. There's actually an Olympic museum over in Lausanne, and you can walk around there and see even some of the artifacts from the ancient Olympic Games. And then some of the modern teams have donated shoes and jerseys and memorabilia from when they competed. So it's kind of cool to see. But I also like playing in Australia. I got to admit, I'm a little bit biased there. But yeah, I think whenever we get to compete in our home country, that's always fun. So as far as the US goes, my favorite place to play, that's a tough one. I like a lot of different places in the US. I like Arizona and desert golf. I like coming to Florida at the end of the year to play the CME Group Tour Championship. That's always a highlight. And then I always like US Opens because they move those around and we get to see different golf courses and meet different people from different parts of the country.
That sounds really cool. On to question number 3. You were born in Brisbane, Australia, but now you live in Kansas. Do you have any favorite things or foods from Australia that keep you from getting homesick?
Well, we actually have a pretty similar cuisine to the US. And then also we've got a lot of international people living in Australia. So we got lots of great Japanese food, Chinese food, Italian food. The only one thing that we miss out on in Australia is good Mexican food. So I must admit, I do enjoy eating tacos and fajitas when I'm here in Wichita, and I've even tried making those in the last couple of weeks, so it's been kind of fun. But I guess one thing that may be a little bit different, we eat in Australia is a bit more seafood because we're surrounded by water. So we have these creatures called Moreton Bay bugs, and I know that name sounds kind of goofy, but they're like a half crab, half lobster, and they're really yummy. So I think I've seen them once here in the US, but they're kind of hard to get even in Australia. So I make sure when I go back to Australia, that's something I always like to order.
That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Now to Ophelia.
Thank you, Danny. Here are just a few of your stats, Katherine. You've been a member for 16 years. You've had 3 major wins, the 2008 CN Canadian Open, 2010 Navistar Classic, and 2017 inaugural Thornberry. And you've had 36 career top 10s. Wow, Katherine, you are an LPGA Tour star. For my first question, I watched a couple interviews on inaugural Thornberry Creek and how special it was, especially when you wrapped around the tree on 16. Can you walk us through that and really just tell us what was going through your mind on those last holes for the win?
Well, I would say there was some nerves involved, and most people in contention do get nervous. So if anyone tells you they don't, they're not telling the truth. So that's just the human kind of reaction, right? We want to win and we want to do well, and so our anxiety level raises a bit. So they're the nerves, but certainly that shot on 16 was not a shot that I'm that comfortable with, but I'd practiced enough, and I told my caddy that I just had to trust it. And my practice swing, I just felt the shot, and then I pictured the shot going around the tree, got up over it, and I just trusted it and trusted my golf swing, and there it curved around the tree. So that was kind of fun to pull that off under pressure. And I don't have the greatest golf memory, but that one certainly I will always remember. And then 17, unfortunately, I made a bogey, but I was able to bounce back with a birdie on 18. And it was just a cool feeling to win that one, because it had been 7 years since my previous win. So there was not that I was doubting that I would ever win again, but certainly when you have that long of a period of time without winning, it does kind of, I guess, weigh in the back of your mind. So that's when you need to trust that you've put in the hard work, and just try and do the best you can. And fortunately for me, that turned out like a pretty good day for me.
Wow, I love that story. Researching your career, I've seen a lot of birdie putts that you've made. Do you think that your putter is the key to your longevity?
Yes, that's a great question. And I would say it has been a very key part in keeping me on tour this long. So I always loved putting as a kid. And I think practicing as a junior, that kind of helped set me up for my professional career. So I think if you looked at the stats actually of the top, say, three players in a tournament, they're always going to have some of the best putting statistics for that week. So putting is very critical. And for us, if you roughly do the percentages, it's about 42% of the total shots that we hit in one round of golf is from putts. So that's why the practice part of it's essential. And I'm sure you've heard your coaches say that too. So the best part about putting is you get to be kind of creative with it and have some fun. There's no perfect way to putt. So the most important thing is get comfy and see it go in and roll it in.
I love putting too. For my final question, when you did a Q&A with Laura Davies at the KPMG Classic, when you talked about your advice about the golden rule and loving the game, it reminded me of when we were at Naples and I saw how much the staff and volunteers loved you and how much the girls loved you at the Girls Golf Clinic. Have you always been like that, and what is your advice on learning to be positive like that?
Good question. My parents always taught my sister and I to treat people the way that we wanted to be treated. So my sister, she's a year younger than me, and we grew up playing a lot of different sports, and I think we were able to learn a lot of good life lessons through sports, and to be nice to those people that you were competing against. Obviously you want to beat them, but we were taught to always be respectful of our playing partners. And I think if you're nice to others, generally they're nice back to you. So my dad used to tell us on the way to school as well that it costs nothing to be nice. So it's always kind of stuck in my mind, and something that I've tried to practice as well. And I think right now the world definitely needs more love and more smiles and more positive people. So that's what I'm going to try and do.
I love that. Back to you, Sophie.
Okay, for our final round, we're going to have a quick Fire Get to Know You round. I will ask you quickly about 2 things, and you will have to choose which you prefer. You have 30 seconds to complete 5. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, pink or blue?
Pink.
Marvel Comics or DC Comics?
Ooh, Marvel.
Australian food or American food?
Australian food.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet. I got a sweet tooth.
Koalas or kangaroos?
Koalas.
Yay! You have survived our Get to Know You round.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Katherine, for our first LPGA Tour Player Birdie Booth interview of 2020. Please check out Katherine's Instagram at @KatKirkGolf. We will be following you.
Thanks, girls. That was great.
We want to wish you the best of luck in 2020 and look forward to seeing you on TV or maybe even at an LPGA event nearby. On to Sophie. On behalf of our Birdie Booth team, thank you for spending time with us. Stay safe and thank you for joining Birdie Booth.
My pleasure. Thanks for hosting. You girls did great.